It's been a hot minute since we've seen anything for Gotham Knights. We haven't seen any new trailers since the reveal at DC Fandome last August. And so now, 5 months later, they've been very active on Twitter to their credit, and they've tried to keep everyone engaged with this game and the fact that it's releasing this year. And recently, they actually did confirm that it is still on track to release in 2021, which is comforting, seeing as how Hogwarts Legacy was pushed back to 2022. It's very good to know that we can still expect to play Gotham Knights this year, which was something that was in question for a minute, but they seem very confident that there won't be any delays. I think it's very likely that there actually already has been a delay from 2020 to 2021, but that would have happened before the game was even revealed. So I'll be honest, I was a little bit surprised considering how active the Gotham Knights Twitter is and how many interviews the creative director, Patrick Redding, was doing, that we didn't get any updates at the Game Awards in regards to a new trailer and really anything since then. Again, it's been 5-6 months since we saw Gotham Knights get revealed, and since then we haven't had any new footage for the game. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about when we can expect the marketing for this game to really amp up. When can we really expect to see Gotham Knights? And perhaps the even more anticipated question is, when will this game release? When can we expect to finally play this game? I know that for some people that might seem like a really entitled question, but the reason that so many people are so antsy to play Gotham Knights, if you haven't been following Gotham Knights for very long, is that this is a game that people have been waiting for many years. People have waited 6 years at this point, really 5.5, since Batman Arkham Knight. And before that, Warner Brothers Games Montreal's last game was in 2013, Batman Arkham Origins, so people have been waiting 8 years. It will have been 8 years when Gotham Knights released since Batman Arkham Origins, and this was a studio that in 2015, late 2015, after Arkham Knight, announced that they had 2 new DC video games in development. So again, these are games that people have waited really half a decade for. And so that's why you'll notice that the fan base is very excited and that they really are anxious to get their hands on this game, and why they're concerned about a delay. And the good news is that I do think it will release this year. I would imagine that the game was originally planned to release earlier, and before they announced it at Fandome, it got pushed back to 2021. And they were very smart in not telling us what the planned release date was. They told us the release year, but not the date. And I think that was very smart, because then if they were planning a summer 2021 release, then now that Hogwarts Legacy has moved to 2022, they can feel free to push back to later in the year and give them extra development time. And since this is really Warner Brothers Games Montreal's first true game in a sense, as it's a completely different development team from Arkham Origins, and this is really the first game that they're doing in this vein that isn't trying to emulate Rocksteady, it's them trying to do their own thing, I'm in the camp that I am totally okay waiting a little bit longer for this game, as long as it gives the developers as much time as they need to really flesh out and polish this interpretation of Gotham and the characters within. So yes, as previously mentioned, I do think that the good news is that this game will almost assuredly release at some point this year. The bad news is I do not think it will be early 2021, nor do I even think it will be mid-2021. I believe that Gotham Knights will release sometime between September and November of this year. They'll do it in time for the holiday season, and even if the game is technically ready before then, I think that is when Warner Brothers Games will be incentivized to release the game. And the reason is that window, September to November, is sort of the sweet spot to release games, because that's around the holiday season. That's when parents are looking for games to buy their kids. That's when people have a little extra money to spend. And so that's why in October, November, you see all of the biggest AAA games from the biggest franchises release every year. In 2021 so far, I'll admit, seems a little dry, so it would be a good opportunity for Gotham Knights. And as excited as I am for the game, I will admit that Gotham Knights is a risk. They are not including Batman. It's marketed solely on the Bat family characters, who are less popular in the mainstream. And so this is a little bit of a harder sell than, say, Batman Arkham Uprising or whatever it would have been. So I think it would be very smart to release this game when games get the most sales. And honestly, it would be really smart of them to have a really solid marketing campaign, which I'd imagine they do. Already what we've seen of the game has made me incredibly hyped. I'm very excited just for the new structure of this game. And I'm not saying that it's necessarily one that I'll like better or even as much as the Arkham games, but I am excited that they're doing something so different, and it's going to be a breath of fresh air. Even if this is a shoot-off game that doesn't get a sequel or anything like that, which I certainly hope isn't the case. I hope that Warner Brothers Games Montreal is able to do whatever they want in regards to their game development. But even if Gotham Knights is sort of like just this one-hit wonder thing and then they go back to more Arkham-style games, then I still think that there would be a lot of merit for this game, giving us sort of a breath of fresh air and allowing us to experience something different. And I think that as we've already seen with what they showed at DC Fandome, that is what the marketing for this game is going to really focus on, is the differences from Arkham, some of the improvements perhaps, some of the more agency-based elements of the campaign, how you can do what you want when you want to rather than being dictated to when you have to do certain plot points. I just read an interview from Stephen O. Young, who's playing Red Hood in the game, and it makes me very excited for this story. It sounds like they really are fleshing out these characters, which was a concern that I initially had, was that because there are 4 playable characters, that they would all sort of be one-note versions of the characters that wouldn't have tons of character development or depth. But it sounds like nothing could be less true. It sounds like they're going all in on really making an immersive story with these characters, in addition to all of these changes to the structure and gameplay. So in short, I expect the marketing to show us what the combat is going to look like a little bit more. I think it's going to feel more like free flow than a lot of us are anticipating, but I do understand the concerns of some of those RPG elements. But I mean, come on, Batgirl like wall runs on a truck and then starts beating some dudes up. It looks good. I'm not going to lie. I think it looks really good. And having some RPG-looking stuff doesn't initially scare me, especially, again, after the developers have repeatedly said that this is not a grind fest. It is really still a very character-driven story that just happens to be longer and structured differently than the traditional Arkham games. And so I think that we're going to see demos for each of the characters, or at least trailers for each of the characters. You'll get to see a very robust Batgirl trailer, a very robust Red Hood trailer. You'll get one for Nightwing and one for Robin. We'll see some of their different strengths and weaknesses. I'd imagine we'll get at least one more demo of the game. I'd imagine we'll get a little bit more explanation on stealth, on multiplayer, on traversal, and just on Gotham, how the ecosystem of Gotham works, how the populated city works and functions, how some of these villain quests will run, and I'm sure that we'll get a few heavy hitter reveals for some of the villains. Obviously, there's a few that they're going to want to keep secret, but seeing villains like Two-Face or Ra's al Ghul or Harley Quinn would, I think, really add to the marketing of this game, again, because Bruce Wayne is not involved, and so because Batman has really the best rogues gallery of any character in comic books, they can really lean on that, and the Batman villains of this game will help sell the game. Absolutely, 100%. So when can we expect all of this to start? When can we expect to start seeing all of this? I would like to be optimistic and say that we'll start seeing stuff between next month and May, but the more rational side of my brain would imagine that it will be closer to June. I think that around E3, we're going to start seeing the marketing for this game really pick up. And admittedly, marketing for a game is a bit of a balancing act. You don't want to start too early, but you also don't want to start too late. You want to give people enough time to know about your game, but you also don't want the marketing to stretch on for so long that you end up showing too much. You still want there to be that intrigue. So with all that considered, I actually think that around June would be a very wise time to start marketing this game, even if, again, selfishly, I want to start seeing more for the game sooner, like next month to May. But the reason that June would work so well is because, again, assuming the game is releasing between September to November, that gives them a good 3 to 6 months to really market this game, to really get people excited, to do a Game Informer cover on it, to give us trailers for each of the characters, to reveal some villains, and that gives them a good stretch of time. That gives them the whole summer and then some of the fall to really get people hyped for the game, and then around the holiday season the game can release, and I think that that would give it the best chance of being a hit. I think that the game is going to sell well. Slickmoff was talking in his most recent video about how the game could potentially sell less than some of the Arkham games, and I do see that being a very real possibility. Not because I don't think the game looks good, but just, again, because Bruce Wayne is not in the game, and that is a pretty big selling point that is being stripped away. And so if they really want to maximize profits on this game, and if they really want it to be a hit, they're going to have some pretty impressive marketing. So far, they've knocked it out of the park. I really liked the Gotham Knights reveal trailer. I really liked the gameplay demo, and I'm really excited to see more. But anyways, thanks you guys so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments below when you think we'll see this game get more trailers and more marketing, and when you think we'll see this game get released. And thanks again for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.